Welcome back to the lesson number 2 on our editing series. And today we'll be discussing edit preparation and organization. Now, last time we did some of the intro, some of the more sort of how to get started in DaVinci Resolve when it comes to editing. Today we're going to talk more about how do we keep things organized. We're definitely going to learn a few new skills and a few other things, but this is one of the things in the process when you're having a very good streamlined editing process. It's very important to be prepared and organized, and really can make a huge difference how you organize your files and your clips. It really can make a very, very big difference down the line and can save you a lot of time. So that's why this lesson is very important, and we're going to really discuss these things in detail. I'm going to start by the way, we're here on the edit page, and all I did here was to start a new project, just named it editing lesson 2. You can name it whatever. Once again, going back to what I said on the previous lesson, all the source material comes from the Blackmagic page training. You can find that down the link. If you scroll down to the description, you can find all the material and you can follow along with everything I'm doing. And that's that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the first thing that I want to discuss with you and teach you today. We're going here on our media. You can alternatively press Shift 2, and I'm going to show you this one more time. Shift 3 takes you to the Shift 2 media. Shift 3 is your cut. Shift 4 is your edit. Shift 5 fusion page. Shift 6 color. Shift 7 Fairlight, and then Shift 8 your deliver. So it's a quick way to. You can also always click down here, just, whatever works for you best. But okay, so let's talk a bit about backing up the source files. Now, the most important thing when you're on a set, especially, it's the camera originals. This is one of the most important, really most important, because camera originals are so important that it's always good to make a backing them up. It's very important. Now, on sets, you usually have a DAT, right, which is the person responsible for ensuring that you have backups of the camera originals. But something that I'm going to show you here on this lesson, and in which the book goes in detail, is how to use the clone tool and backing up those files. So we're going to emulate a situation where you're on set. Say we shot a few clips, and then now we're going to back that up and make sure that everything has gone smoothly. So that's very important. So once again, if you believe or think that these are, maybe you don't need this, you can always jump to the next section. I will have everything down below with all the different time frames, so you can go to the section that you believe, if you think that this is not important. But I would suggest to really follow along and really make sure that you're following, because this is really good. It's really cool. Okay, so let's get started here. Now, the tool that we're going to use today is the clone tool over here. Now, once you click, you'll see that not much is happening. But in fact, something is happening here. You can see that now we have this window, and it says no jobs in queue. Now, this window here that you see is between the media storage and the viewer here acts as a mini panel where we can basically do things with it. Now, we can see that we have the add job here and clone. Okay, you can see that there. And we don't have anything yet. So what I'm going to do before we get started to import anything, I'm going to click here on add job. Now, once you add the job here, it tells here job 1. And you can see we have a source and a destination. And here it says drop source folder here and drop destination folder here. So basically, what is this all saying? This is, so when you have a source, that's the source material, camera originals, or a hard drive, or anything that you really, that's the main source of the clips or whatever it is that you're using. It could be a flashcard, could be really anything. And then the destination is where do you want to clone that source file? Which destination do you want to drop it to? And this is very, very important because basically what you're saying is you take each item here that you want to clone or back up is the job, in this case being job 1. Now you can add as many jobs as you like, and then we create those clones with all the contents inside of it. So if it was a hard drive 1 or media 1, we'll take that as our source. And then what we're going to do, you are going to clone that into a different destination, in this case being the destination here. And I'm going to show you exactly how this works because it's really easy. And once you understand this, everything becomes really easy to understand. So let's do that now. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to scroll down to my folder. And I'm going to open this, okay? So now we see here we have R17 editing lesson over here. And I am going to double click that. Now you might notice that not much has happened here. You don't see anything. But that's because once I double click that, you can see that he added something here. Lesson 02 media. So that ISO file is a disk image that appeared here basically. And it's sort of acting as a virtual hard drive for us. And we're in this lesson, we're just using it to emulate as if this is a hard drive. So that's why, so think of it like that. That's our hard drive. You could have a hard drive too that would appear here. Just for this tutorial, that's what the main purpose of that is. Now, okay, and now we have it here. Once again, if you have your own hard drive, you can follow along like that. This is just to show you, okay, how this process works. So basically what we did, we just simulated plugging in an external source, and that's all we did. So you might ask, what's the next step? So now we have our hard drive here. What are we going to do? Say this is our source. So this is our media original clips that we have. I'm going to drag that here into my source. So what I did now, I'm telling here my clone tool that this is my source that I want to clone. And by dragging that here, it now basically took all that information and put in my source. And that's pretty self-explanatory at this point. It's very, very easy. Now, the thing is this, that each job can only have a single source for the cloned media, but you can add here as many destinations as you want. And that makes sense because each job you want to clone one thing at a time, but say you want to clone that thing to 3 or 4 different hard drives, then you can add as many destinations you want. You're going to have maybe you want 10 hard drives, whatever the case might be. So that's how that works. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is to add a destination that we're going to need here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to right click here and I'm going to say add new location. So we're going to need to add a location. I'm going to come here to my media one and I'm going to go back to my folder here, DaVinci R17 editing here. And then I'm going to go into my lessons. I'm going to come back to lesson 2. And I'm going to use this backup destination, this folder here, as our backup destination. So I'm going to click that. And I'm going to say open. Okay. And it's here. And you can see that that's there. Now, I'm going to show it to you one more time. And say you added here a new location. How do I delete that? Well, you can go here on File, on DaVinci Resolve, Preferences. You can go here, and you can see that this is where we mounted, which is right here. So to delete that, you select it, and then you say Remove, and then you say Save. give me an error. Not really sure why. One more time. I'm going to go here, preferences. I'm going to come to this one. I'm going to select it. Here, I'm going to say remove, just like that. Okay, so it's saying that because you need to have at least one location saved here. So that's why it's keeping that, which is okay. So we're going to keep our backup destination, but basically you see the process. What you can do is right click, add new location, and then you add the location you want. So in this case, we want the backup destination to be whatever we're cloning here to be our destination. You could have as many as I said, many destinations you want. You can have backup number 2, backup location number 3, backup location number 4. Once again, you can add as many as you want. Okay, so that's very good. Now that we have our source, our lesson 02 media with all the contents inside of it. So it's not just clips. Whatever you have inside, it's going to clone everything, not just clips. Once again, it could be audio files, it could be really everything that you have inside of it. Let's give it a destination, in this case being what we just discussed. This is our destination. Here. Now we have a destination. And that's, once again, if you have multiple destinations, you can add as many as you want. Now, we can do this in two ways. You can either keep dragging things to either the source or destination. Alternatively, you can also do it in a different way. You can come in either one of those folders here, and you can right click, and you can say either set as a clone source or set as a clone destination, which is basically the same thing we're doing where we're dragging those folders inside of our job one. It's exactly the same thing, just so that you're aware of that. The next thing we're going to do here, before we start cloning it, so cloning everything, in our lesson 02 media, which you have it here, inside of our destination, which is the backup destination. Before we do that, let's talk about something that's very important. If you click those 3 dots here, it's going to ask us about the checksum type. What is the checksum type? Now, as a checksum type, we're going to select the MD5. Now, you might wonder, what the heck is a checksum? So a checksum is a way, it's a way for Resolve, not just Resolve, but really, it's a way of verifying the integrity of that file that you're copying. So there are several checksum methods that are available, but the MD5 has become, or it is the industry standard. And oftentimes film studios and all different studios really require the checksums with media upload because they want to make sure that the file, the integrity of the file is still there. So that's basically what it is. Now we're gonna here click clone. And once I click clone, we can start our backup. So I'm gonna click clone here, and you can see that now it says cloning in progress, and it's gonna take its time depending on how big the file is or how much. It depends on the size really of what you're cloning. But you can also keep working on your project if you have anything else that you're working on, just so that you're aware. This is going to keep working in the background. So let's wait till that's done. Now, once that is done, you can see now that it says here complete. And what we can do now, I can open back Media 1, and if I go back to my folder on R17 lessons, lesson number 2, this was my backup destination that we chose. Now, if I go back here, you can see that everything that we had, the audio clips, the video clips, the graphics, all the content is copied directly into our backup. This folder was empty before. So it's all cloned inside of this backup destination that we selected as a destination. But there's also something else here that you might be noticing. Now, if you in addition to all the entire contents of the lesson 2 media here, there is also a MD5 checksum here, text document that you can see, MD5 sums txt, which and then also the backup destination 331 MHL. You can see that there as well. Now that is basically a report of the checksum that you did, verification. So this is an important way. So these are documents generated for those media files, and if required, those checksums then can be generated for the destination media files and can be compared to the original values, basically to ensure that the integrity of the copied media is there. That's a process that it's done just to make sure that all the files are there is no corruption happening, or there's nothing of that sort. So that's basically what that is. So now I can close this, and that's how easy it is to really clone inside of Resolve. And I can basically come here, and I don't need this page anymore, so I can either click the X here because we're done with it, and then I can close the clone page, and you can see that now our interface goes back to the way it was. Okay, so very easily you can really do that very, 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 very easily. Another thing I want to do, say this was the fictional hard drive we added earlier, the ISO file. You can always unmount it by right-clicking here, and you can go to Unmount Drive. And that's how you unmount something from your media storage here. And it's just as easy as that, and it's unmounted safely. So you're not going to have any corruption going on or anything of that sort. Now that we have our media files copied safely, it's time to now import our project and start the process, the editing process, and really sifting and going through organizing our media to editing. As I was discussing in the beginning, being organized, it's so crucial, it's so important, because it really helps you as an editor to move faster and be more clear. So what we're going to do now, we are going to come to this folder here. I'm going to select it. And this is the destination location we set, right? When we use our clone tool. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to right click on it, and I'm going to say here, add folder and subfolders into media pool, create bins. And I'm going to click that. Now, something here has happened, and you can see that underneath. Okay, so what has happened here, the media files are now important into our project, as you can see them here. You can come over and hovering over them. So they're here in my media pool. But what's also great about it, and you can see it here in the master over here, it's not they're just imported, but also the folder structure used to organize the original source files, okay, so from our original ones, it's also replicated here as a series of bins. You can see that. Backup destination, graphic, audio clips, video. So it maintained the same file structure from the original file. That's basically what this is saying. And now I can click here, the media storage, and have more space, say for only my viewer. So when I'm here now, I can work. I can also customize it the way I want it. In terms of size, I can move it down, I can move it up. And you can always come on workspace, and then you can go here to reset UI layout in case you want it to the preset or to the default. And then obviously you can make all the changes you want. So you can close the audio tab, you can close the metadata again, media storage, and now you're back to how we had it just a few minutes ago. So this is the end for the cloning, at least as much as we need for now. This is very easy to do. It's very important. So really cloning the Camera Originals content is probably one of those, it's an essential thing to do, because you want to make sure that all your files are backed up into different external drives or flash drives or whatever where you're copying your files, and everything is preserved correctly. And using the clone tool, it's really, really good and really can make a difference. And that's about that. Okay, great. So the next thing we're going to learn now is syncing audio and video and how we do that. Why would you want to sync the audio to video? Well, for a very simple reason that oftentimes when you're on a set, especially when you're working with audio, such as interviews or you're working on a narrative project or anything of that sort, you are oftentimes recording the audio and the video separately. Well, you're still recording audio on your camera. Sometimes you might turn it off, but oftentimes you use what's called the scratch audio, which is the audio from the camera's microphone, which oftentimes is not that high quality. So you have that from your camera, and also you're recording with the more higher quality professional recorders, field recorders, a different file, audio file. Now, when you get into post, you have to do this process, which is also called the syncing the dailies, which is taking your audio files and syncing them to your video files. And this is a process that for some of you editors out there, they're very familiar with this. It's not always as smooth as you might think. Of course, if you're working with time code and you're working with an organized set, it's much easier to do with it, but it's not always the case. And you always have to, not always now anymore, but you had to find sort of like sync points and find ways to really sync everything. So in this part, I'm going to show you a few different ways, a few different examples, and how that works in DaVinci Resolve, which is very, very easy. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the auto sync using the waveforms. So as I said, in many cases, if you have timecode on set, you use timecode, DaVinci Resolve automatically syncs the clips, and it's very easy because it's just a few clips. And basically with matching timecodes takes that from both the clips and the recordings from your audio recorder and just does its magic automatically. But in some instances, as I said, you're not as lucky and you would have to manually sync the clips. And let's get started with showing you how the auto sync works in DaVinci Resolve, and then we will do a manual sync and we'll take it from there. So the first thing I'm going to do now here, we can see we have our clips. I'm going to come here to my master. I'm going to select my audio clips here, and we have audio clip 1. You can see that here. And we also have audio clip 2. I'm going to hold command and then select also the video clip folder here. And now you can see that we have our video clips and audio clips. So what I'm going to do now is to personally prefer to work in list view. However, if you want, you can always work in thumbnail view. I just find that working here in list view, it's much more, you have much more control and you have all the metadata which is available to you. That way you're able to really pinpoint and be more organized with your files. But as I said, if you prefer to work thumbnail mode, you can, in thumbnail view, you can do that as well. Okay, so now let's choose a clip. We're going to start with clip number 1, and I am going to listen to the clip over here from the beginning. So let's listen to it.
And the name Citizen Chain, that is the brainchild of my partner. He named the shop. I was a big fan of Orson Welles. I had done several projects on him, going through school and stuff like that, so I appreciated the pun and the play on the word of Citizen Kane, Citizen Chain. And then only after we named the shop, by a certain course of events, we found out that Rosebud was really a bicycle. The inspiration for Rosebud as a sled was a bicycle that the screenwriter had as a child. Sort of a happy coincidence for us.
And so how does this shop, because this is in North Beach, one doesn't think of, especially down around here, you think of the tourist destinations that we like. How does this shop fit in?
Part of the goal here with me and my partners is that we want to be part of the community, we want to be part of the neighborhood. And there was no bike shop in this area when we opened, only rental shops. So we were the only bike shop that was east of Polk, north of Market Street. It was a good quadrant of the city that didn't have any bike shops.
Okay, so as you can see that the audio is very poor, and that's probably because this is what we call scratch audio. It was recorded with the microphone, on-camera microphone, which oftentimes is poor quality audio. And definitely this is not something that you want to work with. So we are going to listen to the audio one, this one. You can see the waveform now represented up here in the viewer. And this is recorded separately on a audio recorder. So let's listen to this clip.
And the name Citizen Chain is
That is the brainchild of my partner. He named the shop. I was a big fan of Orson Welles. I had done several projects on him, going through school and stuff like that. So I appreciated the pun and the play on the word of Citizen Kane, Citizen Chain. And then only after we named the shop, by certain course of events, we found out that Rosebud was really a bicycle.
Okay, that's enough for now. So you can see that now that is a huge difference, in terms of quality. This is the proper audio. And that's what we care about. We want to take now this audio and we want to sync it to clip one. So let me show you how that works with the auto sync. So I'm going to select the audio clip and then I'm going to select the clip one. And you can right click in either one of them. I'm going to right click here. And you can see you have the auto sync audio option here. Now you have a few different options. You have based on timecode and based on waveform. As I stated in the beginning, timecode, you would use this if you did have matching timecodes, but in this case, we're going to match it by waveform, which basically means that Resolve is going to take the waveform from the audio clip with the recorded scratch audio, with the video clip, with the video clip with recorded scratch audio, and it's going to take that and compare it to the waveform of the high quality audio recording, and then try to sync them. So I'm going to come here and say based on waveform. I'm going to click that. DaVinci does its magic. It's very, very fast on Resolve. And then I can come here and then I can go to my clip 001, which is this one. And now we can play it back and see if our clip now it's synced properly.
And the name Citizen Chain is
That is the brainchild of my partner. He named the shop. I was a big fan of Orson Welles. I had done several projects on him, going through school and stuff like that. So I appreciated the pun and the play on the word of Citizen Kane, Citizen Chain. And then only after we named the shop, by certain course of events, we found out that Rosebud was really a bicycle. The inspiration for Rosebud as a sled was a bicycle that the screenwriter had as a child. Sort of a happy coincidence for us.
And so how does this shop, because this is in North Beach, one doesn't think of, especially down around here, you think of the tourist destinations having the bikes. How does this shop fit into North Beach?
Part of the goal here.
Great. And we can see that now the audio and the video clip are matched perfectly. And Resolve automatically did that by matching the waveforms, as I was saying earlier. Now, something very important here to understand is that this process that we just did does not delete the original audio from the clip. The original audio, the scratch audio from the video clip, it's still there. Instead, it adds this additional audio from our audio recording as a link channels. Basically, so to see this, how this works, we can come to our clip here, and I can right click over here. You can see now we have a few different options. I can come here on clip attributes, and then I'm going to come here on my audio section here, where now we can switch between the linked and the embedded audio channels, or we can add many different configurations of both. So that's what that's doing. So we can go back to our embedded if we wanted that scratch audio we had originally, or the link channels, which is us basically syncing it to the high quality audio. So that's very, very important. Now, another thing that I'm going to cancel in this case. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is that when you're performing the auto sync, we saw a few different options here. So I'm going to go back to, just for the sake of tutorial, I'm going to come here and I'm going to say auto sync with. what we did was we went to waveform here based on waveform. But that is, you would also choose the option that include the append tracks, the one underneath here. You can see the append tracks if you would like to work with the embedded audio and the linked audio together. So that's when you use the append tracks, if you wanted to, for some reason, have them both displaying there. So that's what the append tracks does, and both for the waveform and the timecode, respectively. So if you obviously have more clips to sync by using the auto sync, now I just showed you if you take one clip and one audio clip, you can also do that for multiple clips. So what you would do, you would select, say, the first clip, then shift click all of them, and then you say you have all the audios for each. You select everything, and then just quickly do what I showed you, which you right click, and then you go and you auto sync it. So that's how you would do it for multiple clips. And it's just as easy as that. And then you can go back here and obviously check that everything is synced properly. Now, this is when things work, when the auto sync has done its magic and everything went smoothly. But as I was discussing earlier, that's not always the case. And what we're going to talk about now is how you manually sync audio and video. So now let's watch our second clip here. I'm going to play it. And you can see what's happening here. What is happening here is that we have no audio. So the scratch audio from your camera original, the microphone was turned off, and there is no sound. And that could be a problem with auto syncing, because now if you're trying to sync it by waveform, there is no information that process can take. So we have to come in and manually find now a sync point. So I'm going to show you how you quickly and very easily can do that. So I'm going to come here on audio, and you can see that we have our meters here and a waveform. Now, we obviously don't need the meters because we're not mixing or anything like that. So I'm going to open the waveform, and you can see that a little panel with the waveform comes up here. And what I'm going to do now is to select a clip. So in this case, an audio clip specifically. I'm going to select the audio 002. I'm going to click on it, and you can see that that's already visually represented here. I'm going to go to the beginning, and I am going to quickly play the clip and show you.
One more time. So Slate. Hey. Got it. Okay. So tell us about Citizen Chain.
Now, why is this useful? It's because now we have two different panels. We have obviously our viewer here, which is showing us our video clip, and we have our audio waveform little panel here on the side. And it's great because we can compare them in real time. Having them both visually here helps a lot. How does manual syncing work? Well, to manually sync those two clips, we need to position the playheads for the video here and the audio where we think the clips align. So now, obviously, this normally would be done with a slate or a clapboard on a set, but in this case, we don't have that. So we need to do it a little bit differently. So what I'm going to do is, as I said, find a sync point where we think those clips could align. So I'm going to start with the video clip. I'm going to play it and find that cue. And there it is. So that's our cue. That's him clapping right there. So I'm going to move my arrows left or right, so you can move one frame at a time. And I am going to rest the playhead right when he claps. So see, it's right here. So that's my sync point on the video side. Now I am going to do the same thing, but for the audio side. So let's play it.
One more time. So Slate. Hey. Got it. Okay. So tell us about Citizen Chain.
Citizen Chain, the name is of course inspired by the movie Citizen Kane, in which the protagonist's dying words are rosebud, and it sets off inquiry as to what
Okay, we don't need to play the whole clip. So they clap a few times.
One more time. Let's do a slate. There.
And a lot of echo too. I am going to position the playhead right at the first peak on my waveform. So the first one, which is right here. Right here. And that's where we think our clips, our sync points are, and our clips will align. And obviously you can press your left or right arrows to position it right where you need it to be. Perfect. Now that we have our sync points, what do we do next? At the bottom here, oh, I didn't talk about this, by the way, but this is obviously, this is where you can go and scrub through your clip, even by clicking. Okay, then go back here. Then this is obviously to play the clip or stop it, but you don't need to use it, because you also have your spacebar. And then you have this other little chain here, which says link and unlink audio. And I am going to click that. Now, you can also come here on clip, up here, clip, and then link clips, or you can press the shortcut Option Command L. Either way, you can do it one of those three ways. Now, I come here and I link it. Now, the two of them are now linked, or they're synced. So my video and audio are synced. What's also happening, sort of you have a visual representation here, you can see that my transport controls disappeared, which means that they are synced indeed. And now I can confirm that, make sure that you're on clip 2, which we are already. Then I can take it to the beginning and I can listen and make sure that my video and audio clips are now synced.
One more time. Let's do a slate. There. Got it. Okay. So tell us about Citizen Chain.
Citizen Chain, the name is of course inspired by the movie Citizen Kane, in which the protagonist's dying words are Rosebud, and it sets off inquiry as to what Rosebud was. It turns out in the movie that it was his sled that reminded him of his childhood and innocence before he had to grow up and become a banker. In reality, or in real life rather, the screenplay writer, his name was Herman Mankiewicz, based the idea of Rosebud on his bicycle that...
Okay, so we can see that now the video and audio clips are synced. Let's say, I'm going to show you also, just playing devil's advocate here. Say that you did the wrong sync. How do, maybe the sync point was wrong, either was off on your audio side or video side. How do I fix that? Well, it's very, very easy. Now, this tool here, we said that you can link audio, but you can also unlink it. So I'm going to click that again, and you can see that the transport controls now are back here, which means that now the clips are not synced any longer. They're not linked. So what I can do now is I can come back here, and I'm going to purposely misalign these. So say you chose this one, for example. And then on my video, we chose the right one, which is here. And then I decide to link them. So now, obviously, it's going to be off.
Hey. Got it. Okay. So tell us about Citizen Chain.
Citizen Chain, the name is of course inspired...
You can see now they're not synced properly. So that's, if you're running into this case and you made this mistake, once again, click the chain to unlink them and then go back to your sync points. So in my case, it will be this one. And then we know that here it's the first time he claps. Okay. And you simply just click that. And now.
Hey. Got it. Okay. So tell us about Citizen Chain.
Citizen Chain, the name is of course inspired by the movie Citizen Kane, in which the protagonist's dying words are Rosebud.
And you can see that now everything is linked. And so that's how you sync video and audio together, either by doing it with the auto sync feature when available, which is obviously great. If you have time code, even better, because it's just a few clicks. And then this is how you manually have to sync your video and audio clips, by finding a sync point and then just by linking the audio together. Now that we've learned a bit about cloning and cloning a source file, importing the project, and then syncing the video with the audio, The next step that we're going to learn is how to modify clip audio channels. Now, this is important because it's one of those steps in the edit process that makes us, at least we can ensure that the audio in the project is configured correctly. And if you don't do that before you start to edit in the timeline, that can create some problems, especially later on when you're working with audio specifically. Well, not just with audio, but with video as well. So let's get started and let's do that. So it's very simple, and I'm going to show you how to do that very, very quickly. The first thing I'm going to do here is to come, obviously this is what we have right now. I'm going to close the audio tab here so we have a little bit more room to play with and a little bit more space, as you can see. Good. Alternatively, also work in if you prefer to work in thumbnail, you can always do that. But see, for me, working in list view, it's always the best way. I'm going to select the third clip, then I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to click on clip 12. And what that's basically doing, it's selecting the whole range. So we have selected all the clips, okay, just underneath. The next thing we're going to do now is to either in one of those clips, we can right click here, and I am going to come here on clip attributes that, if you remember from a few minutes ago, we just quickly ran through. So this is our clip attributes, and the clip attribute allows us to configure various aspects, as you can see here, of how clips are displayed, played, or even heard. That means that we can change video attributes, we can change audio attributes, time code, etc. So we have all these options. Now I'm going to come here on my audio, and we can see right away that we have a few things available to us. Now in the audio tab, we could change the number of tracks used when editing any specific clip into the timeline. We can change the configuration of individual channels within those tracks, and whatever if we need to mute or use a specific track. So in this case, you can see here that our clips, we do have a stereo file, right, with the embedded channel 1 and the embedded channel 2. And then you can see channel in track says left and right. Now, what is the issue with this? The issue is that the clips channels have been automatically configured by Resolve as a single stereo track. However, and that's because the audio was recorded on camera. But when you're recording on audio, is rarely recorded as stereo on location, on set. So it makes sense for us to change it to 2 mono channels rather than keeping one channel that is a stereo channel for your left and right. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's very, very easy. And really, it's so easy that then anything from now on you want to pay attention to, go to your clips and make sure that the audio, especially, it's configured properly, because down the line, it can make a lot of difference. So how do we change that? First thing I'm going to do here on the format, we have a format. We have the source channel, we have the track, we have channel in track, and then we have this trash can bin here. So here on stereo, I'm going to change that to mono. Once you change it to mono, now what it's saying is that we have one track, one mono track with the embedded channel 1. I can also change it to embedded channel 2, but I want to keep it to channel 1 right now. And this is our track audio 1. Perfect. So now that we did that, however, we only have the embedded channel 1. We don't have the second one. So how do we change that? Or at least how do we make it now a 2 mono? Because we want to add 2 mono. So over here, you have a few other options. And you can add a stereo. You can see you have mono, stereo, 5:1, 5:1, film, 7:1, 7:1, and then all the adaptive options. We're going to explore this later on. What we care about right now is to add 1 mono channel, 1 track, mono, and then you click add. Now, we added that. So now we have 2 mono channels, but we need to change the source channel for the new track that we added underneath. So I'm going to change that from embedded channel 1 to embedded channel 2. So now we have 2 mono channels, okay, 2 mono tracks with the embedded channel 1 and embedded channel 2. Now, the trash can here is if you wanted to delete a specific track. So let me show you. If you hover over it and then you click that, that deletes the track. It does not delete the audio of the clip, but just that specific track. And we can add it back, mono, one track. Also here you can select how many tracks you need to add. If you wanted to add 3, 4, 5, wherever the case might be. So I'm going to add just one. Click add, and then I'm going to change the embedded channel to embedded channel 2. Then I'm going to click OK. And now you can see it here on the audio channels. All the clips that we selected, now they have 2 channels, 2 mono channels with the embedded channel 1 and embedded channel 2. And that's how easy it is to configure your audio. Really takes just a few seconds, and now these clips are correctly configured with 2 tracks of mono audio. And that's really, really easy to do. Now, clip attributes are very important. It's very important to configure these things because there's something that a lot of people don't talk about, or many people don't know about, is that most of the time you want to configure your audio channels before you start to edit any clip into the timeline. Because once a clip is placed into a timeline, any change you make to that clip's attribute, right, will now affect only the clip in the timeline. However, if you do everything before you start to edit and work in your timeline, now everything is affected. So that's why you want to do this first as you're prepping for your edit, because that way you have set everything the way you want it and you don't have to worry about it. Of course, then say you set up a specific audio, a specific clip, you configure it a certain way, you can always go in the timeline and then right click and change the clip attributes that you could do. But it's better to do the overall, all the clips first, and then if you wanted to change an individual clip, you can change it later on. So this is why this is so important. And it's just as easy as that. Great. Now let's start talking about metadata. Now metadata has become an integral process, an integral part of the editing process. And it can be very useful and really simplify your work tremendously. But it can also be very overwhelming if you don't know how to handle it. So now in this part, I'm going to show you how to sort of work with metadata inside of Resolve and how to work effectively and quickly and save your own preset and really work in a very, very efficient way. So let's get started. And this would only take just a few minutes. So first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to come here on my DaVinci Resolve on top, and then I am going to open my preferences. The shortcut is also Command, then comma. I'm going to click that, and now it takes us here. Now, when you first open it, it's probably going to look like this for you. So make sure to come here on User, and then you have all the different options. We're going to come here on Metadata. Okay, so once again, you open it, Preferences. You have that, go to User, then Metadata. Now, here on the metadata, you can see that we have a few things, and we can create, we can modify, and delete a custom preset. So now we don't have anything, but let's add a new one. So I'm going to come here to New. I'm going to click on that, and then we can rename it. You can rename it whatever you want. I'm just going to say my favorite metadata. There we go. My favorite. Perfect. And then I'm going to click OK. Now you can see that it does create a preset for you. And now we can see that on the upper part, that's going to have all of our presets. And on the lower here, we have what's called our metadata options. And the metadata options, you can see that we can add on those, we can check those checkboxes for a few different things. So that depends on how you want to work. What do you want your metadata preset to display? So it's very subjective, and it really depends. Each editor would have it differently. So for this tutorial, we'll just check description here. Then we would have keywords. The next thing we're going to have is scene, and then shot. So this one's, okay? Now, that's something I used to do. Don't click on save because it's not going to save it on a preset. You want to first save it up here. So you're going to click here on save. Now those are saved inside my favorite metadata preset that I just created. Now I can click save here, and now your preset should be saved. Now you might wonder, how do I find the preset? How is it possible for me? How do I get there? Well, it is very easy. We can now select one of the clips. So this clip, say here, and I'm going to open here the metadata tab. And now on the metadata tab, you can see that it's not showing though what we just selected. And that's because here on these three buttons here, I'm going to click on that. And then you see now it's on default, but I'm going to change that to my favorite metadata preset that I created. And now, okay, it doesn't show anything yet. You might wonder, oh, but what is this? Like, this is not where we are looking for, where we checked. And that's because your preset here will appear blank in the metadata editor unless it is set here to show all groups. And I can do that by going into my sorting here, and I'm going to say all groups. Once you do that, now you can see all the 4 different attributes that we checked earlier. And that's how simple it is to work with metadata. Now, this is very good. What you could do now, you can go either clip by clip or selecting a few clips and really go in and start to manually write what the description, keywords, add up all the information manually. Or you could also import metadata, which is the next step I'm going to show you. Now, let's look at how do we import metadata. Now, when it comes to metadata, there is a different ways that you can populate the metadata on the clips here. One of them, it could be done on set, where the camera operator and the cinematographer can basically populate all the metadata info for each of the clips they're shooting. The second way is to actually manually do it, you as an editor yourself. So coming here and populating, right? You select each clip and then you populate it for each clip. That is a second way. The third way is to have someone on set doing that. So taking a spreadsheet and then taking all the information, such as shot, scene, take, all the different information, and writing it down on a spreadsheet. Then you can then import that data into Resolve using the CSV, the comma separated value format, and then having that populate the entire, all of your clips. So now let's see how this process works, because it is very simple and it only takes really a few steps. So what we're going to do here, we're going to come on File, and then we're going to go here on Import Metadata to, Import Metadata to, and then I'm going to say Media Pool. So I'm going to click that. Now we see that you're going to look into wherever your spreadsheet is with all the metadata. So in this case for me, it's this one, the CC metadata CSV. And then I'm going to say here, I'm going to click here on Open. And now we get this little window here, as you can see. Now, this is the metadata import dialog box, and which allows us to choose what are our import options and our merge options. So in this case, we can match the clips this particular case on this tutorial based on the match using file name, but say we don't have the clip start and end time code, so I'm going to check that. But in case you are having metadata where you also have the clip start and end time code, you want to keep this checked, and then you can press OK, and that then shows you that metadata is import completed successfully. 15 media pool clips updated. That means that it has done whatever you wanted it to do. And that's as simple as it is. It's very, very simple, and it only takes just a few seconds to do that. Now, something very important to note here is that once importing metadata in this way will replace any existing metadata in the fields detailed in the CSV file. So that means that if you had something previously, that's going to be replaced. Okay, so that's something very important. Now, what about the metadata fields that they're not listed in the CSV file? That means that they will not change. So only the ones that were listed. And this behavior can also be changed on the merge options on the metadata import window that we had earlier. So that's very important. Now, we can make sure that all the metadata here, we can see that it's updating. So here it says street. Then we can go to this clip, see, pull focus. You can see that. You can see also the shot and the scene is also changing. And that's a good way to see that everything you basically has gone smoothly. Now, another thing to understand here is that we've talked so far about importing metadata, but of course you can also export metadata. You're able to export it from clips or even from bins. So now to export it from a clip, it is very, very simple. You can just come back to file here. And then remember here we had our export, right? Our import metadata too, but we also have export metadata too. So you can choose export metadata here from, and then choose whichever one. So for this case, for me, it's going to be media pool. And then it's as simple as that. And then all your chosen metadata then will be exported as a CSV file. And this is a good way then to use that for transferring metadata, say from this project to a different project, or even if you're working on a completely different system. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can do that here with file. You can export metadata from the media pool, but you can also export metadata from a bin. And how do we do that? Well, in this case, I need first to select a bin. So I can come here, and then I can come over here, and then on file, okay, we can say export from here, and then we can say bin as well. And basically the way it works with the bin, it's that we'll export the clip metadata from the currently selected bin, so the bin we selected, to a DRB file. And what that means is that as the exported metadata, you can use this option then to transfer bin between like different Resolve projects, or even to a different system. And then once you get to a new project, then you can choose file, import, and then you import that bin, okay, with the DRB file that we just discussed. But basically, that's all it is with importing metadata. So it's very simple. It's just you have the import option here, import metadata to, and then export option to. Import metadata to media pool or selected media pool clips, or you can then export a media pool, okay, metadata, as I said, or you can export an entire bin, which, be careful, it's going to be the bin that you have selected. So that's what is going to be exported. And that's about that with importing and exporting. So now that we've gone through a little bit about metadata, the next thing I want to talk about is how do we rename clips with metadata. Oftentimes you'll notice that once your camera regional clips have this alphanumerical numbers and letters, and that's because the way the files are named is based on the date that were recorded and the time of the day. And that's a little bit, it could be a little bit confusing, and you would want to try to avoid that and sort of simplify the workflow for yourself as an editor. And that is an easy way to do that. And we're going to explore that, how we do that inside of Resolve. Now, we're going to add variables, which are references to other metadata within Resolve to really simplify our workflow. And now I'm going to show you how that quickly works, because it's very simple and really can make a dramatic difference. So let's get started. So here, I'm going to, on my video clips, I'm going to press Command A, and that selects all the clips that we have in our media pool here, as you can see. Now I'm going to right click in either one of those clips here, and I'm going to go back to our trusty clip attributes. Once I click that, you can see that we explored earlier the audio tab, but this time we're gonna choose the name tab. You can see that we have here a clip name. Now, what we can do is to rename those clips, all the selected clips, and then add variables to it, and then sort of reference those variables to metadata within Resolve, just as I was explaining earlier. So let's get started with that. So now what I can do here is, if you add within the clip name here your percentage sign, this is how you enter a variable. And this percentage sign, you can see now we have a few different options. And if I scroll down, you have all the available options down here that you could choose from. So what I'm going to do, so basically what the percentage sign, this is indicating that you're about to enter a variable. And then you can choose whichever one you want. That's all that's saying right here. So for instance, let's type here key. And you can see by typing key, we have all the available options here: key, grip, keywords, key code, marker keywords. I'm going to choose here keywords. And now you can see that within the clip name here, we added the variable inside of it. And it's just as simple as that. Now, how do we add multiple variables and within our clip inside of our name? So, well, what I can do here now, I can come and I can press spacebar, and that creates a space, obviously. And then I can go back and add another percentage sign over here. You can see that then we have a few other different options. So say I want to press DES for description, and I can click on description. So now we have our keywords and description. Now you can also add words. Just type something such as shot. Okay, so it's not just that you're adding just exclusively the variables. So you can sort of combine text and enter preset variables within our clip name. So I'm going to type shot here, and the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to press spacebar again, and then I am going to add a percentage sign here, and I'm going to type shot again, and then I'm going to select the shot. So basically what this is saying, the shot and then shot number. That's why I combined it with the letters here, just by adding text and then our variable inside of it. And that's all it is. And then you can click OK. So now we can come here to my favorite. Remember, we have my favorite metadata here. You can see the shots here. So now when I click clip by clip, you can see that we have the shot number. Come here, my favorite metadata, shot and scene, and our description as well. So that's how easy it is to add variables inside of our clip names. And you can see that now on the clip name here, just as we change the clip name, we have interview Sasha shot 1, interview Sasha shot 2. It's because we added all of that. We added our keyword, we added our description, and we added our shot. Okay, we typed that, and it's all over here. Perfect. So one thing to note here is that by changing the clip names, you are not changing the names of the camera original files of each clip. You're just changing that inside of Resolve. So basically, as an editor, you are just renaming those to make your life easier within Resolve. Now, it's very, very common for editors to do that because you can identify, as I said earlier, your clips much easier that way, and it's faster to work that way. So it's very important to understand that. Now, if you wish to see the original file name instead of whatever we have entered here, you can do that anytime. Say I want to know the file name for this. I can just click on it. Then I can come up here on View, and then I can choose Show File Names. Okay, and then that was going to show you the file name for that specific clip. In case you are interested, right? You can go there, then you can go on View, and then you can say Show File Names over here, and that is going to show you all the different file names for each clip. And then you can always go here on view and see, uncheck that or check that in case you wanted to do that. So that's how easy it is to add variables within your clips names alongside with a text as well. And that's about that. So now we're going to search using metadata. Right, so with our video clips here selected, once again, you can come here to this magnifier glass. You could see over here, which says search, and I can click on that. Now you can see that now we can type whatever we're looking for, searching here. But before I do that, here on filter by, here is filtering by file name, and sometimes it might not be what you want. So I always prefer to have it here on all fields. That way you have a more thorough search, okay, over everything. So now, for example, say I'm looking for an exterior shot, I can type here EXT, stands for exterior, and now it's showing you all the different clip names with the exterior in it too as well. So this by clock shot 4, this exterior street shot 1, and this third exterior shot as well. So I can also type here the name of our character, which is Sasha, and it shows us the clips with Sasha as well, shot 1 and shot 2. To clear, you can either obviously go back and delete, or you can come here on the X that clears up your whatever you typed. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, another thing that I want to specify as well is that if you have this option, but say you're looking for something else as well, here we're selecting by the selected bins. If you know that you have a clip, it's on a different bin or something like that, on a different bin, you know there is a shot that you're looking for, selected bins is going to select only from these selected bins, in this case being the video clips. You can just put it here on all, okay, all bins, and that way it's available to among all the bins that you have within your project. So that's about that with searching. It's very easy, very simple, and it's really, really quick. So now let's talk about smart bins and using automatic smart bins and how that works very, very quickly. So now that we explored obviously our metadata, how to search for things, etc. Over here, you could see that these are what we've been working in so far with those clips here, video clips, and those bins. But there is also this section called smart bins. So now you can see we have a keyword, and now I can select that. And now we have a bunch of options here. Now let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see a little bit better. And I'm going to extend it like that. So now we have a little more space. Now what happens here with the smart bins is that if I choose the exterior EXT, right? Smart bin here shows me all the shots with the exterior. As long as you have the interior, you have the logo as well, you have the graphic, you have the interview, as you can see here, you have the San Francisco Bay and the store as well. So this is very useful because you can, with the smart bins, automatic smart bins, you're able to go through the metadata. So the smart bins, by the way, are created automatically after we added that metadata to our clips in our media pool. So that's how we do have all this information right here. And you can also customize those, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You can come up here on the DaVinci Resolve on preferences, then we can go back to user. You might be familiar here with metadata, we used it earlier. We're going to come here on editing, and there is a whole section here, we could see it, with the automatic smart bins. And we have the automatic smart bins for keywords already selected. That's how it created automatically those different bins down here. And you have a different option. So you can really customize, okay, your smart bins. You can add smart bins for timelines, automatic smart bins for people metadata, automatic smart bins for shot metadata, and then automatic smart bins for scene metadata. So let's check that for now. And I'm going to click save. I'm happy with that. And you can see that now, if you come down here, I'm going to extend it a little bit more. You can see we have now this scene added here. Okay. And I can extend. And now you can see that we have 1, 3, and 5 based on the scene. In that way, you can now even further go and find the clips that you're looking for, audio clips, video clips. So that's how easy it is to work with smart bins. And it's really, really quick. And that's another huge advantage of using metadata inside of your project because it really simplifies your work tremendously. Now that we've discussed smart bins, automatic smart bins in great length, it's time to create smart bins for people. Quick disclaimer, this is available only if you have the Studio version. So if you don't have the Resolve Studio, you are not going to be able to do this, and you should quickly jump to the next section of this tutorial. Okay, so let's get started and let's see how that works very, very easily. Now, so far we've obviously explored the metadata and we have explored the scene inside of our smart bins, but let's see how with people, how can we do that and how effective is that inside of Resolve. So I'm going to go here on my video clips and I am going to select all of them. Now I can right click on either one. It doesn't matter where you're clicking here. You can click in either one of those clips here. And what we're going to do here, you have this option here which says analyze clips for people. I'm going to click that. Now Resolve, it's going to take a few minutes. It's going to basically do its magic to analyze that. Great. So now you can see that we have here a people's window. And I'm actually surprised how fast that was processed by Resolve, which shows you again that this is such a great NLE. Anyway, so now we have Resolve try to do as best as it can, analyze the faces, okay, all the people that we have in our clips and categorize them. Now on the sidebar here, you can see that we have a few different options. As you can see here, people 1, people 2, other people as well. And it's doing that by analyzing each face and putting it into different groups. So here on people, you have all the people that Resolve has categorized and analyzed as being different people. So we're going to start with this first one. And here I'm going to click and rename this is Sasha. So I'm going to click that and then enter. Now you can see that when I rename this specific clip, I renamed this person to Sasha. This is not a clip, this is the person to Sasha. You can see that that's reflected here as well. You can see that now all the clips, all the people that it's recognizing Sasha are also inside our group here. You can see that. And now we also have this other person here. And you might wonder, where is that? Well, if you go to person 2, you can see that that's coming from the t-shirt, Sasha's t-shirt. That's what is recognizing as being this, who that is. So here on, I can come down here on person 2. I can right click and say here, not person 2, but say new person in this case. And then I'm going to input the name here and I'm going to say t-shirt, just like that. And then I'm going to click enter. And now you can see that that's our t-shirt down here instead of being a person, because that's not a person. That's just this man in his t-shirt. Okay, so, and you can see that that's also renamed here. So people basically is all the people that were identified. Then this is the group for all the people that we recognize in the various clips as being Sasha. Then here we have our t-shirt, and other people here is other clips. Okay, it analyzed other people that Resolve wasn't sure if were part of this specific group. So then we can do that very easily. I can come down here and we can select all of them. I can press this, I can select this, I can select all of them because this is Sasha every single time. And then now I can right click and then I can say tag as, and you can tag all these different people here and other people to whichever group you want. So in this case for me it will be Sasha. So now they're tagged there. And you can see that other people now just disappeared. It's not down here anymore because we tagged it to this group, which is Sasha. And you can see that now everything is there. So now we have our t-shirt over here. And with this face, we have Sasha with all different clips. And then just the 2 people here. And it's as easy as that. Then now I can say close very easily. And now we want to showcase that inside of our smart bins here because it's not showing. And how do we do that? Well, it's very, very simple. I can go back here to my Resolve, DaVinci Resolve, inside my preferences, and brings back our preferences. I'm going to go back to user and back to editing. Remember earlier, we activated the automatic smart bins for scene metadata. In this case, I am going to add here automatic smart bins for people metadata. And once I check that, you're going to see that the people now are going to appear inside of our smart bins. So if I click save now, you can see that now between the keywords here and the scene, we have a new category here called people. So I'm going to close here the keywords real quick, and I'm going to click here on people. And now you can see that that's all down here. You have Sasha and you have the t-shirt. Okay, the Sasha with all the clips that we tagged and the t-shirt as well. So that's how convenient it is to understand how metadata works, and really using also these features where Resolve allows you to basically automatically analyze all different clips, find people within those clips, and then use them inside of your smart bins to quickly find where all the clips of that person is contained, which is very, very, very useful and can really simplify your work. I highly suggest to use those tools, especially if you have the studio version, because look how fast and how quickly, even if you're working on a narrative work, but especially in documentary, I think this is really, 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 really important to understand and use. Very, very good trick. Great. So far, we have explored the automatic smart bins, but there is more to it. We can also create custom smart bins, which is really great because we can customize it as much as we'd like and then have control over our clips in our media pool. And I'm going to show you how you do that very, very easily and very, very quickly. And it's very, very simple. So now I'm going to come here. So far, as we discussed, we had our keywords, our people, and our scene, which are all the automatic smart bins, which is really great because we're able to very quickly, find all the clips that we need without doing much work. So now with the custom smart bins, you can come here, you can right click, and you can see you have a few options. And I'm going to say here, add smart bin. And then this little window pops up here and says, which is our create smart bin window. Now we can give it a name. So in this case, I am going to rename this to B-roll. Okay, so the name of our smart bin. And then here, I'm going to keep it just the way it is. Now on the file name here, I am going to change it from file name, this menu here, pop-up menu. I am going to go to something else. So in this case, you can see here you have all the different options that you can explore, of course. Then I'm going to say keywords. And then here on contains, I am going to change that from contains to does not contain. And then here, I am going to type interview. So now, what is this basically saying? This means that any clip that does not have the interview keyword applied will be currently included in the smart bin. That's what it's saying. That's because I changed it to does not contain the interview. So that's basically what that's doing. And now another thing here to be aware of, here on show in all projects. So if you want to make this smart bin available across different projects, you can click this option here and to show that in all projects. So now this doesn't mean that the contents of this specific smart bins are also going to be transferred to the different project. It just means that the rules applied to the smart bin are available to in other projects. So say you have a workflow that is very, very similar. So say that you like to work a specific way with your smart bin, with your custom smart bins, you can carry that over to other projects. That's all that's saying, which is, as I said, very, very useful because that allows you to move efficiently. Great. So now that we did that, let's add a few more rules to our custom smart bin here. I can click Option Plus to add a new criteria here. And I am going to change now this time from all to any here to our option here. And then instead of keyword here on my pop-up menu, I am going to change that to a different. I'm going to go here and then, oh, by the way, you can also type things by pressing. So I keep pressing C and then you can say clip type and then you can click enter here and you can see that that's updated very, very quickly. Your interface here. Perfect. And now here is saying mutable properties clip is, and then I'm going to keep it to video. Then you can also add another set of rules here. I'm going to click the plus and you can see that now I'm going to change this from video here to video plus audio. You can see that that's actually updated in real time within our smart bin, which is very, very efficient and is just as easy as that to create smart bins and really to play with its rules. So it's very, very easy. And so basically, what is this saying though? What is that you told? What are those rules? So basically, this smart bin now contains any clip without the interview keyword, but only if it is either a clip that contains just a video or a clip that contains a video plus audio, because those are the rules that we give it in here. So this will basically take out other clips types such as audio, video clips, logos, graphics, whatever else that is there, because we haven't set that inside of our rules here. So that's how that works. And then I can click create, and that creates over here. You can see that now we have our B-roll. Okay, over here. Now, to change the rules of smart bins that we've created, you can always right click here. Okay, and then you can always edit that by editing our smart bin. And that way you're able to say set new rules or really make some changes to your smart bin. And that's how custom smart bin once works. And it's very easy. And you can really customize it to a point where you can be very specific with what you're looking for. Great. So now let's talk a bit about power bins. Now, so far we've worked with just regular bins and smart bins. But what is the difference with the power bin? So let's talk about that. Now, just regular bins and smart bins are great organizational tools, but they work within your project. The difference with the power bin is that it's not contained just on your, just say this single project, but it's contained within different projects. As long as all the projects are within the same database, the power bin, it's going to be on different projects. So that means that if I have 5, 6 projects within the same database, if I create a power bin here, it's going to be available for my second project, third project, fourth project, fifth project, sixth project. And that's a huge difference between just the regular bin and the smart bin compared to the power bin because of that. Now, why would you want to use a power bin? Well, because there might be instances where you have a file, a sound effect, or really a clip that you think you would use on a different project, and you don't want to go back and find it and search it. Maybe you want to just have the bin ready and then work it that way much more effectively and much faster. So let's see how that works. It's very simple. Now, in the old version of Resolve 17, you'd go on view here, and then you had show power bins. But now things have changed with Resolve 18, because now we don't see it here. The power bin is not here. You can see we have just a regular bin and the smart bin. So I'm going to actually make a little more space here. But how do we bring the power bin here? Well, it's very simple. You can see where we have those 3 dots here. And you can see we have here show smart bins, which is right over here. And we can say show power bins. Now, once I click that, you can see that now we have our power bin right here. Then I can move it, or I can resize it just as you would like, to something like that. And you can see that now we have our master power bin, but we have nothing there. So you can either right click here, or you can go with the shortcut. I'm going to just, in this case, just press here. And we're going to rename this power bin here to logos. Perfect. Now, obviously, there's nothing here. And what we're going to do, I am going to go my graphics here, and we have this CC logo from Citizen Chain over here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag this inside my logos here. Now we have that inside my logos power bin. So what does this mean? Once again, this all means that now we've created this power bin here, which obviously, as long as the other projects that then I am going to work with are within the same database, that means that I will have this power bin available on the other projects as well. You can just show the power bin and then you can work it from there. And this is very useful, once again, if you are working on projects where reusing specific files or really anything that you think within few different projects you would reuse. It could be a sound effect, it could be a lot of different things. Now, one note to be aware of: multicam clips, compound clips, timelines, and fusion clips cannot be placed into power bins. So that's the only exception there. But yes, so that's how power bins work. Very easy, very quick. Just want to talk about that. In case you want to hide that, you can always go back here, and then where you have your show power bins, you can hide it. You can do the same technically for your smart bins as well if you don't want to show it. And then you can obviously toggle them back in if you need, and then you can also move here, so you can really customize it the way you want right over here. And then something I want to talk about is that if you want to make more space here, you can always close this little window here. It's right over here. You could do the same technically for the metadata. You can make more space here, and then say you wanted all the space here, you could do that as well. So I can come here on video clips, then I can do that, and now I have much more space and real estate to play with. So that's a little bit about power bins. Now let's get to the final step of the prep and organization parts on before we start editing. And now it's the time to create proxies or optimized media if you're inside of DaVinci Resolve. So now, how does that work? Now, you don't have to do that necessarily. If you have a computer that can handle that, it's not mandatory, but it's always suggested to create proxies and low bandwidth, basically lower resolution files to work with, especially in the edit. And that way you can move faster and with more speed. And it allows you, especially if your computer is not as powerful, it really allows you to simplify your work and work tremendously better than with the camera original files. Makes a huge difference. So let's see how we can do that, and let's see how that works. So now I'm going to come back here to my scene, and I'm going to open scene 5 here. And we're going to open one of those shots. So this one, the San Francisco Bay sunset shot 15 right here. Now we can see over here that this is an Apple ProRes 444XQ, which is a pretty big file. And we can also see here the resolution is 4000 by 2160, which is substantial. I mean, this is a pretty big file. If you don't have a powerful computer, this can create a lot of problems when you edit. So it's always suggested to create, as I said, optimized media if you work inside of Resolve or proxies. And how does that work? By the way, you can see here inside of your media pool here, you could see the resolution. Alternatively, you can always open your metadata here, and you can see that as well in here. I just closed it earlier, but it's here on the metadata. I'm going to keep it closed now because I like to have a much more space here to see a little bit more, because we have also the codec, etc. So I like that the way it is here, even though you also have it here as well. So it's really a matter of preference and how you like to work. Great. So now that we have this, we definitely don't want to work with something this big, 4000 by 2160. So let's create a proxy. And once again, also the Apple ProRes 444X. This is a huge codec. It's pretty big. So how do we work with that? So now you can't just come here and right click and then you say generate proxy media or generate optimized media. But in this case, we're talking about proxies. You can't just generate a proxy media. First, you want to come here and open your master settings. So when you open master settings, first thing you're gonna do here, you're gonna see this timeline resolution, etc. So whatever timeline resolution you work with, oftentimes it's either 2K or 1920 by 1080p. But let's just not touch that for now. I'm gonna come down here on my optimized media and render cache. That's where we can make some changes. So now on the proxy media resolution, you can see here it's saying now choose automatically. And what does that mean? So if I come and click here, we have different options. We have original, which is the original, camera original. We have half, quarter, 1/8, 1/16, or choose automatically. So this is how much do you want your proxy media to be compressed by? You want it to be compressed by half, by a quarter, 1/8, 1/16. If you keep it to choose automatically, this is what's going to happen. So say in this case, our timeline is 1920 by 1080 over here. And say we have it on choose automatically. Any clip that is larger than the 1920 by 1080, say 4K footage, it's going to be then scaled down to a resolution that is close to our timeline resolution. So that's going to happen for clips that are 4K, 2K, whatever clip that UHD, whatever clip that is bigger, okay, than our timeline. Now, clips that are the same size as the timeline or smaller, obviously they're not going to be scaled, because it doesn't make sense. But what this is saying, it's basically choose automatic. It's going to try to scale it to as close as possible to our timeline. That's what's happening there. So I'm going to usually keep it to choose automatically, but in this case, let's say by a quarter. We're going to rescale it by a quarter. Now, that's the proxy media resolution. The next thing here is the proxy media format, which format we want to choose. So now here, a good one, if you're using a Mac like myself, is the ProRes 422 proxy. If you're working with Windows, I think DNX LB, or this is a great codec for PC. Okay, so we're going to choose ProRes 422 proxy. That's a great one. And that. And then obviously you can, as I explained, you can also work with optimized media. Optimized media is a little bit different and works a little bit differently. But this is if you're inside of Resolve. And that's about that. And then over here on the working folders, you can see that we have where do you want the proxy generation location to be. And you can browse and find whichever folder or hard drive you want to work with. You can choose that and browse and select the folder or hard drive that you're working with. So pretty self-explanatory. You can do the same for the cache files location and for the gallery stills location if you're doing color grading as well. So I'm going to click save, and now that's saved. Okay, so now on my San Francisco Bay Sunset Shot 15, same one that we have loaded here, as you can see, I'm going to right click here, and I am going to say generate proxy media. And now Resolve starts computing that, and it's pretty quick. You can see that now it did generate a proxy file. You can see that represented here, but this is not enough. I want to identify my proxy media better. How can I do that? You can come here and right click over here on this column header here. It doesn't matter, it could be here, it could be here, any of these places here. You can just right click and then you can check this proxy here option. And by checking that, now we can see that we have this proxy tab here, which is very, very useful because we see that we already made a change here, but it's very useful because when you work with a lot of clips, it's also good to see what size or what clips have some proxies to them. Now, when it says none, obviously there's no proxy associated with that specific clip. And when it says 1000 by 540, that's the proxy associated with this specific clip. And we can see that over here. Okay, very, very easily. Now, I'm going to come and zoom here. I'm going to come towards the middle. We can see the silhouette. I'm going to zoom here, and we can see that now we have artifacts. And that's happening because this is a low bandwidth, lower version compressed file, right? This is not the camera original. Now, and say though, I want to deactivate, I want to uncheck my proxy. I want to work with the camera original because I am ready for VFX or color grading. How do I do that? So I'm going to zoom in so you can see over here very clearly that this is the lower quality. Okay, you can see that there. I can also make this a little bigger so you can see a little better. And how do I uncheck that and go back, revert it to the camera original? Okay, so how do I do that? Well, once again, none of these other clips have a proxy, only this clip right here. I can come here on my workspace with my clip selected. Once again, this one. I can come on my playback, not workspace. You're going to go on playback. And here you have a few options. You see you have use optimized media if available. We are not using optimized media right now. We're using proxies. So there is this other option here which says proxy handling. And we have here prefer proxies activated, which basically means that if you have proxies, that's what we have at the moment activated. But if you go here and you say either disable all proxies or prefer camera originals, what that's going to happen now, once I click that, you can see that the proxy is disabled, as you can see right here. So you can go back on playback, proxy handling. If I click on prefer proxies, right? So this clip, we're back to our proxy, which is a 1000 by 540. So much lower resolution than our camera original, which we can see here, by the way, is 4000 by 2160. Okay, so I can go back on my playback, and I can also say prefer camera original. It takes you to your camera original 4000 by 2160 over here. So that's how you activate or deactivate your proxies. And it's so easy because you can work with your proxies all along as you're working on your edit, and as soon as you're ready for either VFX or color grading or both, you can then deactivate, uncheck that proxy and go back to your camera original very, very easily all over here. And that's how you do that. Okay, so now that's with automatic. So it's how do we do that? How do we manually link proxy media? So let me show you how this works. So this was in the case that we're working within Resolve. So we are doing the proxies just as we did earlier within Resolve. But say we're running in a situation where the proxies were done on an external or a different editing software, NLE, or a different system or whatever. So we have some files or we have a folder with proxies already done on the clips that we're working with. So how do we link those manually? And it's very, very simple, actually. So let me raise this up here. I'm going to go up like that. And then I am going to go on my video clips. Also here, by the way, to resize it, you can press Z, or if you zoomed, you can also come here on this little option here and then say fit. I always prefer the shortcuts, so that's much easier. So we can see our clip here. So my video clips now, we can see that those are all the clips that we have available here. And I am going to select them all by pressing Command A, so select everything. And we want to manually link proxy media to it. And let me show you how easy that is. It's 2 clicks. So I'm going to right click in either one of those clips. Doesn't matter what it is, whatever you prefer. So right click on it. And then you have the option to relink proxy media over here and unlink proxy media as well. So let's start with relink proxy media. So if I go here and I say relink proxy media, that's going to take me to my project here. Now I can find where my proxy media is. So in this case, I'm going to go media 1 here. I'm going to go back to my folder. So in this case, it's going to be this one, lessons, lesson 2 media. Then I'm going to go here on proxies, this one's, and then I'm going to click open. Now what's happening here, it says one clip could not be found. So it's probably one of the clips that wasn't there, which is okay. perform comparative search. Okay, it's probably a different clip, so I'm going to say cancel. So the proxy worked for mainly all of them, because you can see that, once again, you can see that here as well. You could see it on this proxy here. When he says none, it hasn't performed it. But when he says 320 by 180, now I know that all those clips are a lower quality file, that now it's linked, okay, over here. Now, once again, that clip that just said one clip could not be found is just the proxy that we just created a few minutes ago. That's why I was giving you that error. But say you were importing a file or a folder and you had all your clips, that's how you do it. You select all your clips, you right click, just like we did, select all your clips, you right click, and then you say link, okay, the proxy file, proxy media. About that as well, now that we have all, we can double check everything here. I can go to one of my interviews here and we can see, I'm gonna come close to about like that, and I'm gonna come back to my playback here, and on proxy handling here we see we have the prefer camera originals, but if I take it to prefer proxies, look at that. I mean, look at the difference. So this is definitely a proxy. You could see that. I don't even need to zoom as much, and that's because the size of the proxy, I mean, it's a 320 by 180, and you could see that now all the proxies are there. So that's why I like this option to have the proxy panel here showing me the size of my low bandwidth files in here. And then once again, say you edited, you're done with it, you can come back to your playback, proxy handling. You can either disable all proxies over here or prefer camera originals. And it's just as simple as that. Another thing that you could do, now we learned how to manually, okay, link our proxy media to our clips, but I can also select all of them. I can right click, and now instead of saying relink proxy media, you can also unlink proxy media. And look what happens here on the proxy here. So I can go here and now unlink proxy media for all of them. And once I do that, look, the proxy here, now it says none. It unlinked all of them. And just as easy as that, I can also select all of them. Once again, come here and then say relink proxy media, and you're gonna go and search it again, go back to it, and then you can relink it. Just as easy as that. Very, very quickly, one last thing. What is the difference between proxy media and optimized media? Now, they might look like they're the same, which it is true, they're very similar in the sense that both of them are designed to create a lower resolution, lower bandwidth, and much easier to work files, because that's the point of both. But the difference between one to the other is that the optimized media is managed within DaVinci Resolve. It's internal to Resolve, and it's not. We can't export that. We are not able to export it, and it's not user accessible basically. On the other hand, proxy media creates a fully independent, if those are fully independent files that you can export, okay, and they're easy to work with, and you can then use them with other softwares, other NLEs, etc. So if you know that you're not working, if you know that you're working on a different system and you're working with a different computer and not necessarily on DaVinci Resolve, I would highly suggest to use proxy media. If you're working on the same computer and you're working within Resolve, it makes sense to use optimized media as well, because it is internal to Resolve. So that's the difference between the two, and that's how you create proxies very easily within Resolve. Great. Before ending the tutorial, let's talk about one last thing, because we made it all the way to the end. Good for you. So the last thing I want to talk about is the saving project preset. So I'm going to come here on the wrench here. I'm going to click on it, this one over here, and now that takes us to the master settings, which we've been exploring so far, even when we talked about optimized media here and proxy media. But I'm going to come here on top, and you can see that here we have our timeline resolution and timeline frame rate, stuff that we haven't really talked about. But let's talk about quickly one thing that I want to say here is that since Resolve 17 now, that is the option to have enabled interlace, to enable the interlace processing. So the frame rates for interlace timelines are measured in fields per second and can be set to 50, 59.94 or 60. And that you can enable that just by doing that here. Now let's talk about saving project presets and how exactly that works. So before I start creating a preset, it's very important to understand that if you know that you are working with, say, projects that oftentimes you require the same timeline resolution or frame rates, or you have some settings that are very similar from one project to another, okay, you can create presets inside of the master settings here. Now, it used to be that you had a presets panel here, but now it's like you have these three dots over here that you can see here, and you have a few different options. You can come here on default preset, you can load a preset, update a preset, export one, and reset it to default as well, okay, in case you want to revert it back to how it used to be. You can also set a current setting as a default preset and then save a current setting as a preset. So the first thing we're going to do is here, come here, save current setting as a preset. And then what you can do now, you can add a name. So in this case, we're going to say here, edit, we're going to say tutorial here, and then editing preset. Then I'm going to say okay. And then we give it a name. Now you can come here and you can see you have your tutorial editing preset. Now you can load it into active presets. You can load it just by doing that. You can also update it, or as I said, you can set it as a default preset for all other different projects within your same database. And then you can also export it in case you want to export it to a different system or anything like that, or you can also delete it. So you have all these different options. So I'm going to come here, and now in this case, well, I'm just going to leave it like that. And then you don't even need to save it because you just did that. And now you have a preset every single time. You say you get on a different project or a different system, you can go back. First, you need to export it. If you go in a different system, then you just import it in the different one by going on import preset here. Or if you're in the same system, so you're working on the same computer, you can just set this as a default preset, and now you have that as your default for all your projects coming on. So that's about it for this tutorial. If you made it to the end, good for you. This was very long. Once again, these are very important things. A lot of people that I've taught editing, they tend to be, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people because that's, I don't want to generalize, but they really disregard the part of the process where it's about setting up your project, organizing and keeping everything, in order. This is so crucial that it's something that when you first start editing, it maybe might not feel like it's necessary because you're so excited maybe to start editing or get creative right away. But you should always spend the time first doing all the steps. Okay, so keeping everything organized, keeping everything really, really clean, and do all the steps. Make sure that everything is perfect, configured, and correctly done and run smoothly first, and then you can start to get creative, which is the part that obviously everybody loves. So thank you for making it once again to the end, and then I will see you on lesson 3, where we'll get now into more advanced editing techniques, and we will be learning much, much more about it. It's going to be much more fun. The next few episodes, definitely, it's going to be much more creative. Once again, great for you if you made it up to the end, and I'll see you on the next lesson.